For those of you that play golf, you know what a mulligan is. A mulligan is when a player makes a bad shot and he gets a do-over. It stems from the days of newly invented cars, and so the guy that would drive to the golf course, because there were vibrations and his hands were affected, he could get a free do-over on the first hole, and it would not count against him. Now, this is not in the rules, so it's not really legal, but we have carried it over to modern time as a do-over when an amateur golfer, usually a bad amateur golfer like me, makes a terrible shot. He gets to do it again, and the bad shot doesn't count against him. Have you ever had one of those days when you just wanted to take a mulligan and do it all over? I remember counseling one of my patients, and he told me, I have had a bad life. I just want to do it all over again. He went even further, telling me, I just wish I could do it all differently. Now, maybe because he was dying at the time from a disease of which his lifestyle contributed to his demise, caused him to have these feelings. Just look at this past year, and you can hear many saying that they were so happy 2020 was over and we were looking forward to 2021. Then a few days ago, the Capitol was stormed, violence and hatred ruled, and we may be ready to skip 2021. I heard someone relating a humorous anecdote who said, thanks for the 7-day free trial, but I don't think I'll be subscribing to 2021. Whether it is a day, a year, a decade, or a lifetime, there are times that we wish we could back up and do it all over again. Choose different words to speak, handle a relationship in a different way, act differently. Sometimes we just want to do life in a different way. More than anything else, we just want to be different. Our doing arises out of who we are. It reveals our being, our inner self. It reveals how we see ourselves, how we see each other, how we see the world. Being and doing are interconnected. Wanting to be different, wanting to do things differently is really a wish that is connected to the first day. Think of some of your first days. Your first day of school, the first day of being married, your first day at a new job or a new club or being part of a new thing, the first day of being part of a church community, or even better, the first day you made a commitment, a real commitment to your faith. First days are filled with light. First days are filled with hope, with dreams, with desires, with possibilities. First days are good. I imagine that is how God felt, if God in fact does feel like us, on the first day of creation. This was the first day before there were any words spoken in anger, before there were any hate, before feelings had been hurt or relationships had been broken, before hate and war and killing, before guilt, before regret. There was only darkness and a formless void. But something already did exist at the moment of creation. And then God created. More than that, God spoke into creation light. The light of God, the light of love, the light of hope and of promise. And it was good. God did not destroy the darkness. He only separated it from the light. And there was night, and there was day, and it was good. Day one. In my work, I hear it from so many people that they wish they could go back to the first day. Not the first day they were conceived, but the first day prior to when they did something that would affect the rest of their lives. Sometimes that's drinking or smoking or doing drugs or engaging in a lifestyle that led them to where they were that day, they were speaking to me. Sometimes it's repairing a relationship, or being a better partner, or going to a place they wanted to go to, or where they want to be. It's not really about turning back. It's more that they are just looking to become new in creation. We cannot go back to the way it was. First day wishing is really about not turning back. It's about becoming new. Really, it's about returning to the waters of our baptism. It's about repenting, not so much about falling on our knees and begging for forgiveness. No, it's more about transforming, changing, becoming new again, becoming new in creation. We return to the first day. Creation and baptism cannot be separated. Listen to what was read to you today in Genesis and the Gospel of Mark. In the beginning, a wind or breath or spirit of God swept over the face of the waters. And in Mark, this is the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And at Jesus' baptism, the spirit or breath or wind descended on Jesus as he was coming up out of the water. In Genesis, in the beginning, God said, "Let there be light." In Mark, at Jesus' baptism, God said, "You are my Son, the beloved." Genesis, in the beginning, God saw that the light was good. And in Mark, at Jesus' baptism, God was well pleased. Creation and Jesus' baptisms are gifts from God to humanity. Through Jesus, our humanity was present with Jesus at his baptism. It was our humanity that the Spirit descended. It was on our humanity that God spoke he was well pleased with. Our humanity was recreated through Jesus at his baptism. It was the first day of creation all over again. In baptism, we are new, part of creation, a new being. This is about renewal and not destruction. Just as God did not destroy the darkness, God is breaking into creation through that renewal. Every time we renew our baptismal vows, every time we return to the waters of our baptism, we return to the first day of light and love and to the promise of a new life, to the promise that we can be what we were created to be. We share in the baptism of Jesus and we share in the blessings. It was not the baptismal waters that sanctified Jesus. It was Jesus that sanctified the baptismal waters. And in turn, it was through Jesus that we are truly blessed. Yet I see it time and time again, people do not think that they deserve to be blessed. Instead, they feel they should be condemned. And so in the thinking, they miss the blessings that are bestowed upon them. In this time of darkness, we need blessings. We need to be the beloved. To bless in Latin is benedicere. It is the word that benediction comes from, literally, speaking, diction, well, bene, or saying good things. I like that. I need to, especially in these past months and days, to hear good things. We need to affirm each other. Without that affirmation, we will not be able to live well. To give someone a blessing is the most affirming thing that one can do to another. You don't need to be clergy or a chaplain to bless someone. But it is more than the words of praise or appreciation. It is more than saying someone is good or has skill. It is more than putting someone, and that someone can be you, in the spotlight. The desire to be in the spotlight, ego, is a strong desire. But by giving blessing, you are saying yes to someone's belovedness. A blessing goes much farther than an admiration or a condemnation. Between virtues and vices or goodness and evil deeds, a blessing touches the original goodness of the other and calls forth his or her belovedness. Just as God called Jesus beloved at his baptism, through Jesus and our sharing in his baptism, God calls each and every one of you beloved. Being blessed is being reclaimed. However, we need an ongoing blessing that will allow us to hear that we belong to a living, loving God. We need a blessing that will allow us to realize that we are guided by love in every step of our lives, and that God will never leave us alone. That God will never leave us alone. How do we hear and how do we claim this blessing? In truth, that blessing is more than a sentiment. It is in fact a truth that shapes our lives. We must be able to see and experience the blessing in a very clear way. The way that we can do that is through prayer and presence. I have learned much about these two things throughout my days as a hospice chaplain. I am trying to shape my time within personal prayer to more of a way to listen than to say things to God. I do tend to talk a lot, and I say things all the time to God, and sometimes I don't pause to listen. The real effort of prayer is to sit and listen, which is not an easy thing to do. Being in presence is, at times, uncomfortable. It's hard to quiet your mind, to purposely come into God's presence, to not be distracted by the events of the day, even if those events are dark, scary, and unbelievable, like the events of the pandemic or the events at the Capitol a few days ago. The real work of prayer is to become silent and to listen to the voice that says good things about you. I guess that sounds a little self-indulgent, yet we must listen to the voice of God. We must think that we are deserving, and we must feel the love that surrounds us in God, even when there is hate all around us. In the Hebrew Scriptures this morning, we heard the beginning, the inauguration, if you will, of God's creation. But God's creation does not end in chapter 1. God began to create a new thing, and today that creation continues all around us. We are part of the creative process. In the beginning of the gospel of Jesus, God is entering into creation. In the gospel this morning, we heard that as Jesus came up out of the water, he saw the heavens being torn apart. This is important because in that act, we see that through God claiming of Jesus, the veiled mystery of God is now being made manifest and available to us, and that is good news. Karl Barth stated that through the story of Jesus, it is revealed that God did not desire to remain hidden in the heights of heaven, but instead descended to earth to be seen and heard by us humans. The bestowal of the Spirit upon Jesus is crucial for traditions that stress God's sanctifying grace. Jesus did not receive the Spirit in order to enjoy it privately, its spiritual benefits, but rather in order to pass it on. The church has claimed that Jesus underwent baptism so that we might commune with him in baptism and share his empowerment by the Spirit. Jesus' baptism calls on us to participate in creation and to continue in Jesus' ministry. It calls on us to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, to heal the sick, and to visit the prisoners. It is an active ministry, and it is a gift from God to us, a blessing. We are blessed through Jesus' baptism and continue to be blessed today. We need to take the time to sit and listen to what it is that God is saying to us. Whatever has happened in your life, wherever your life may have brought you to the waters, the blessings of baptism await you today. So return to the waters. Let the waters of God's blessing wash over you and rid you of fear, resentment, and despair. Belly flop into the grace of God. Body surf in the waves of God's forgiveness. Submerge deep into the gift of being created in the image and likeness of God. Swim through the pool of God's grace. Sail into the stillness of God's peace. These are the waters of new birth. You are God's beloved. You are blessed as daughters and sons of God. And in you, God is well pleased. Amen.